Namaste. I'm so happy you have joined me today. For the next little while, wherever you are, whatever you're doing, I would like to invite you to pause with me. Not because life has stopped, but because sometimes the most meaningful journeys begin when we slow down. Welcome once again to Raagadri, the Carnatic Music Gateway. If you have been a part of this journey for some time, thank you for your continued love and encouragement. And if this is your very first time listening, I'm delighted that you have found your way here. Usually in Raagadri, we immerse ourselves in the beautiful world of Carnatic music. We explore the lives of great composers, the beauty of ragas, the depth hidden within a single line of a kriti, and the timeless wisdom that our musical tradition has preserved for centuries. But today, I would like to take a small detour, not away from music, but deeper into its very purpose. You see, the more I listen to the compositions of Saint Tyagaraja, Muthuswami Dikshitar, Shyama Shastri, Swati Tirunal, Purandaradasa, Annamacharya, and so many great masters, the more I realize something profound. They were not merely teaching us how to sing, they were teaching us how to live. Every composition speaks about devotion, about humility, about surrender, about gratitude, about discipline, about truth, about compassion, about discovering a joy that is not dependent on the changing circumstances of life. Their music was never just meant to be admired, it was meant to be lived. And somewhere along that thought, a simple question arose in my mind. What if every once in a while, between our conversations on ragas, kritis, and composers, we paused and simply reflected on life itself? Not as experts, not as teachers, not as people who have figured everything out, but as fellow travelers, learning, growing, and sometimes stumbling, sometimes questioning, yet always trying to become a little better than we were yesterday. And that's how Raagadri Reflections was born. These are not separate from Raagadri. They are a quiet extension of everything Raagadri stands for. Because if music has the power to refine our ears, perhaps it also has the power to refine our hearts. If music can teach us patience while learning a raga, perhaps it can also teach us patience in our relationships. If music demands discipline in practice, perhaps life asks for the very same discipline in our thoughts and actions. If music can bring harmony between notes, perhaps we too can bring harmony between our thoughts, our words, and our actions. And isn't that what all of us are really searching for? Harmony, not just in music, but in life. So, every now and then, let us step away from the notation, pause the analysis, keep the books aside for a little while, and simply have a conversation. A conversation about life, about choices, about values, about the person we are becoming. Because At the end of the day, what is the purpose of appreciating the highest art if it doesn't inspire us to live a better life? That is the spirit of Raagadri Reflections. A gentle pause amidst our musical journey, a space to think, a space to question, a space to grow, not because we are searching for perfection, but because every human being has the capacity to become just a little kinder, a little calmer, a little wiser every single day. And perhaps, if we make that small effort, we won't merely create better musicians or better professionals or even better scholars. We will create better human beings. And when better human beings are created, better families naturally follow. Better families build stronger communities. Stronger communities build compassionate societies. And compassionate societies make this earth a more beautiful dwelling place for every living being. Maybe that is the greatest contribution any of us can make. Not merely through what we achieve, but through who we become. So today, let us begin this journey together, not with answers, but with one sincere question. What kind of human being does this world meet every morning when it meets me? A few moments ago, I asked you a question. What kind of human being does this world meet every morning when it meets me? Let's take that thought a little further. If I were to ask you, what does the world need the most? I'm sure every one of us would have a different answer. Some may say, we need better education. Others might say, we need better healthcare. Some would say, we need cleaner cities. We need less pollution. We need more scientific discoveries. We need better governments. We need more opportunities. Every one of these answers is important. Every one of them matters. But let me ask you something. Who builds schools? Who discovers medicines? Who governs nations? Who raises children? Who creates technology? Who writes music? Who teaches values? Who starts wars and who creates peace? The answer is the same. Human beings. Everything that we admire in this world and everything that troubles us has in one way or another passed through the hands of a human being. Which means the quality of a world can never rise above the quality of the people who live in it. And perhaps that is where true change begins. Not by asking, why isn't the world changing? But by asking, am I becoming the kind of person this world needs? Sometimes we look at society and feel overwhelmed. We see anger, division, stress, loneliness, dishonesty, impatience. We wonder what has happened to the world. But perhaps the world is simply reflecting what is happening inside us. A society is nothing more than millions of individual minds living together. If those minds are restless, society becomes restless. If those minds are compassionate, society becomes compassionate. If those minds value truth, truth becomes the culture. Change doesn't begin in society. Society is just the result. Change always begins with the individual, with you, with me. There is a beautiful saying that has stayed with me over the years. Be the person you wish existed more often. Think about that. If you wish people were more patient, be patient. If you wish people were more honest, be honest. If you wish people listened more, listen. If you wish there was more kindness, offer it first. Sometimes we wait for the world to become better before deciding to become better ourselves. Maybe the order is exactly the opposite. Perhaps the world becomes better because ordinary people quietly decide to become extraordinary in character. Not famous, not powerful, not wealthy, just deeply trustworthy, deeply compassionate, and deeply dependable. There is a story that beautifully illustrates this. A young boy once asked his grandfather, "How do I change the world?" The grandfather smiled and replied, "When I was young, I wanted to change the world. As I grew older, I realized I couldn't. So I wanted to change my country, then my city, then my family. Now that I'm old, I have realized something very important. Had I first changed myself, perhaps my family would have changed. My family might have inspired the neighborhood. The neighborhood might have inspired the city. And perhaps the world would have changed too." What wisdom! We often underestimate the influence of one life. A calm parent creates a secure child. A truthful teacher shapes an honest generation. A compassionate doctor heals more than the body. A sincere leader inspires integrity. A musician who performs with devotion reminds us that excellence is born from discipline. One life touches another, then another, then another. And that is how civilizations are built, not through monuments, but through values. Every morning, before stepping into the world, perhaps we don't need to ask, "What am I going to achieve today?" Perhaps we should ask something even more meaningful. Whose life will become a little better because I live today? Maybe someone needs encouragement. Maybe someone needs forgiveness. Maybe someone simply needs to be heard. Maybe someone needs a smile. Maybe someone needs hope. We may never know the impact of a small act of kindness, but neither do we ever fully know the damage caused by one careless word. Every interaction matters. Every conversation matters. Every choice matters. Because character isn't built in extraordinary moments. It is built in ordinary moments, repeated every single day. And perhaps before we dream of building a better future, we must first become better human beings. Because every better society is simply a collection of better people. Let me ask you something. When was the last time someone asked you, "How are you really?" Not "How is work? How's your promotion? How's your business? Not what have you achieved recently, but simply how are you becoming as a person? It's interesting, isn't it? From the time we are children, we are constantly asked about our achievements. What marks did you score? What rank did you get? What college are you joining? What job did you get? What's your salary? When are you buying a house? What car do you drive? Without even realizing it, we begin measuring our lives through milestones. And there is nothing wrong with achieving, dream, work hard, learn continuously, build a wonderful career, or create something meaningful. Our achievements are important, but they should never come at the cost of the person we are becoming. Because life has a quiet way of asking a different question. Not what have you accomplished, but what has your success made of you? Has success made you kinder or impatient? Has success made you humble or proud? Has success made you generous or self centered? Has success strengthened your relationships or slowly taken you away from the people who matter most? Those are difficult questions, but perhaps they are the questions that truly define a life. There is a story I would like to share. A young executive had worked incredibly hard for many years. Long hours, weekends, sleepless nights. He finally received the promotion he had dreamt of. It was everything he had hoped for: a bigger office, a higher salary, more recognition. That evening, he went home, excited to share the news with his father. His father listened with a smile. He congratulated him warmly. After a few moments of silence, he asked just one question. "Son, I'm very proud of what you have achieved. But tell me, has this journey also made you a better human being?" The son didn't answer immediately because, for the first time, he wasn't thinking about his promotion. He was thinking about himself. Sometimes, one sincere question is enough to change the direction of our life. Achievements decorate our resume, but character defines our reputation. Achievements may open doors. Character determines whether people want us to remain in their lives. Achievements can earn admiration. Character earns trust. And trust is one of the most precious things a human being can possess. Think about the people you admire the most. Is it only because they were successful? Or is it because they were honest, dependable, humble, and compassionate? Success may introduce us to people. Character is what makes them stay. There is another thought that I often reflect upon. At the end of every day, before we go to sleep, we usually ask ourselves, what all did I finish today? Perhaps we should also ask, who benefited from my presence today? Did someone smile because I encouraged them? Did someone feel hurt because I listened patiently? Did someone feel respected because I chose my words carefully? Did my family experience the best version of me or only the tired version of me? These questions don't appear in performance reviews, but they determine the quality of a life. Because the people we love are not waiting for our perfection, they are waiting for our presence. One of the greatest tragedies in life is this: sometimes we become successful and slowly lose the very qualities that helped us become successful. We stop learning, we stop listening, we stop expressing gratitude, we stop making time for the people who stood beside us when success was still a dream. And then we discover something: achievement without relationships feels lonely. Achievement without peace feels empty. Achievement without integrity feels heavy. Perhaps that is why our elders always reminded us: your wealth should grow, but your values should grow faster. What a beautiful thought! Because one day, people may forget the position we held, the awards we received, the titles after a name. But they will never forget how we treated them, how we made them feel, whether they could trust us, whether our presence brought peace or pressure. That is the true measure of a life. Maybe success is not the destination, maybe character is. Success may help us make a living, character helps us make a life. And perhaps if we spend as much time building our character as we spent building our careers, we will not only become successful people, we will become meaningful people. People whose success inspires, people whose words carry weight, people whose lives become examples. And perhaps that is a far greater achievement than success itself. In the next part of our journey, I would like to talk about one relationship that influences every other relationship in our life: the relationship we have with ourselves. Because before the world can trust us, our own mind must first learn to trust us. We have spoken about the world. We have spoken about society. We have spoken about character. But every journey of transformation eventually arrives at one place: ourselves. Because before I can become a better parent, a better friend, a better colleague, or a better citizen, I must first become someone I can trust. Let me ask you something. Who is the one person you speak to the most every single day? It's not your family, it's not your friends, it's not your colleagues, and it's yourself. From the moment you wake up until the moment you fall asleep, there is a constant conversation happening within. Some days it encourages you, some days it questions you, some days it comforts you, and sometimes it quietly reminds you of promises you never kept. Think about how often we say, "Tomorrow I'll start exercising. From next week I'll eat healthier. I'll stop wasting time. I'll read more. I'll spend more time with my parents. I will apologize. I'll be more patient." We don't say these things to impress anyone. We genuinely mean them. And yet, how often does tomorrow quietly become another tomorrow? Not because we are incapable, but because comfort is persuasive, excuses are convincing, and procrastination is patient. It always whispers, not today. Now imagine something. Suppose you had a friend who promised to meet you every Saturday. The first week, they didn't come. The second week, they cancelled again. The third week, another excuse. What would happen? Slowly, without anger, without drama, you would stop believing them. You would still smile when they spoke, but somewhere inside, trust would have disappeared. Now, here is a difficult question. If we repeatedly break the promises we make to ourselves, why should our mind continue believing us? Perhaps this is where confidence is truly born. Not when others appreciate us, not when we receive awards, not when the world applauds. Confidence begins the day our own mind says, if you tell me you will do something, I know you will do it. What a beautiful relationship that would be, to trust yourself completely. Some people think discipline is about control. I don't. I think discipline is an act of self love because every promise we keep tells our own mind, you matter, your goals matter, your life matters, and I'll not let you down. Every small promise kept becomes a brick, and slowly those bricks build something invisible, self respect, not ego, not pride, just self respect. The quiet confidence that comes from knowing I can depend on myself. There is a story about a violin maker that I have always loved. An apprentice once asked an old master, how do you create such extraordinary instruments? The master smiled and replied, I don't create extraordinary violins. I simply refuse to ignore the smallest imperfections. Every day, he would smooth one rough edge, adjust one tiny curve, polish one small surface. Someone watching from a distance would hardly notice any difference. But months later, a masterpiece emerged. Life works in exactly the same way. Nobody becomes disciplined overnight. Nobody becomes patient in a single day. Nobody becomes compassionate because they listen to one podcast. Transformation is quiet, almost invisible. It happens every time we choose what is right over what is easy. Every time we wake up when we promised we would. Every time we finish what we started. Every time we speak the truth even when it is uncomfortable. Every time we admit, I made a mistake. Every time we choose growth instead of excuses. These moments seem ordinary, but they are shaping a human being. Sometimes people ask, where do I begin changing my life? Perhaps the answer is much simpler than we imagine. Don't begin by trying to change your entire life. Begin by keeping one promise, just one. If you decide to walk for 15 minutes, walk. If you decide to read 5 pages of a book, read them. If you decide to call your parents, don't postpone it. If you decide to spend 10 quiet minutes without your phone, honor that commitment. Small victories have extraordinary power because Success doesn't create discipline, discipline creates success. And long before discipline creates success, it creates character. I have often reflected on this. The world may not notice whether I kept my promise to wake up early. The world may never know whether I completed the book I wanted to read. But I know, my mind knows. And every time I choose integrity over excuses, something inside me becomes stronger. Not louder, just stronger. Maybe that quiet strength is one of life's greatest treasures. Because when storms arrive, and they always do, it is not talent that carries us through. It is character. It is discipline. It is the trust we have built with ourselves over countless ordinary days. So perhaps, before asking, how do I achieve more? We should ask, can I become someone whose own word carries value? Because a person who cannot trust themselves will always seek validation from the world. But a person who honors their own word walks through life with a quiet confidence. Not because life is easy, but because they have become dependable to themselves. And maybe that is where every meaningful transformation begins. One promise, one decision, one ordinary day at a time. We have spoken about character. We have spoken about discipline. We have spoken about becoming better human beings. At this point, you might be thinking, I know all of this. I know I should be patient. I should be truthful. I should spend more time with my family. And I shouldn't react in anger. The question is, if we already know what is right, then why is it still so difficult to live it? Think about that. Nobody has to teach us that honesty is better than dishonesty. Nobody has to explain that kindness is better than cruelty. Nobody has to convince us that gratitude is better than complaining. We already know. And yet, every single day, we struggle. Why? Perhaps because the greatest battles of life are never fought outside. They are fought within. Every morning, there are two voices quietly waiting inside us. One says, wake up, keep your promise, do what you said you would do. The other whispers, 5 more minutes. One says, speak gently. The other says, give them a piece of your mind. One says, be happy for their success. The other whispers, why not me? One says, forgive. The other says, don't forget what they did. Isn't that true? Almost every important decision in life begins as a conversation inside our own mind. And perhaps becoming a better human being isn't about defeating the world. It is about learning how to gently guide these inner conversations. I once met an elderly gentleman whose words I have never forgotten. He said, every night before I sleep, I ask myself only one question. Did the world become a little lighter because I lived today? Not how much money did I make, not how many people praised me, Not how productive was I? Just one question: did someone smile because of me? That question stayed with me because perhaps that is a true measure of a successful day. Not everything we finished, but everyone we touched. Let me share another story. A teacher once gave every student a sheet of white paper. In the middle of the paper, there was one tiny black dot. She asked, "What do you see?" Every student replied, "A black dot." The teacher smiled. Nobody mentioned the large white space. How often do we do the same in life? One criticism, and we forget 10 compliments. One mistake, and we ignore years of effort. One difficult day, and we conclude life is unfair. One person's success, and we forget our own blessings. Perhaps gratitude is nothing more than learning to see the white space again, not denying the black dot, but simply refusing to let it become the whole picture. There is another quality that quietly changes every relationship: kindness. Not the grand kind of kindness, the ordinary kind. The kindness of listening without interrupting, the kindness of thanking someone sincerely, the kindness of remembering someone's name, the kindness of apologizing first, the kindness of putting away your phone when someone is speaking to you. These moments appear insignificant, yet they often become the moments people remember the longest. Because kindness says something words cannot. You matter, and every human heart longs to hear that. Our homes don't become peaceful because the furniture is expensive. They become peaceful because the conversations are gentle. A workplace doesn't become inspiring because the building is beautiful. It becomes inspiring because people trust one another. A society doesn't become strong because its roads are wide. It becomes strong because its people stand by their values even when nobody is watching. Everything begins with people. Everything begins with character. Everything begins with the small choices that nobody applauds. Perhaps that is why the greatest transformations in history have always been quiet. A mother patiently raising her child, a teacher believing in a struggling student, a doctor staying back for one more patient, a stranger returning a lost wallet, a friend choosing forgiveness over resentment. None of these make headlines. Yet, these are the moments that quietly hold society together. Maybe the purpose of life isn't to become someone the whole world knows. Maybe it is to become someone whose family is grateful for, whose friends can depend on, whose colleagues respect, whose children learn from, whose presence leaves every place just a little kinder than it was before. Because if enough ordinary people quietly choose extraordinary values, the world changes without anyone announcing it. One home at a time, one conversation at a time, one heart at a time. And perhaps the next question we should ask ourselves is not how can I change the world, but something much more personal. What is preventing me from becoming the person I already know I can be? As we have been journeying together over the last few minutes, we have spoken about honesty, about discipline, about kindness, about gratitude, about forgiveness, and about becoming the kind of person whose very presence makes this world a little gentler. Perhaps, as you have been listening, a question has quietly arisen in your own mind. Are these simply good values to live by? Or is there something deeper? For centuries, our culture has celebrated these values. Parents teach them to children, teachers encourage them, grandparents remind us of them. Every scripture praises them, every saint embodies them. But have you ever paused to ask why? Why such importance on truth? Why compassion? Why humility? Why discipline? And why gratitude? Surely, our sages already knew that these qualities make a family happier, a workplace healthier, and society more peaceful. But I don't think that was the complete picture. I believe they were pointing us towards something far greater. Perhaps these values were never the destination, they were preparation. Let me share a simple picture with you. Imagine standing beside a quiet lake just before sunrise. The wind is still, the water is calm, and as you look into the lake, you see the entire sky reflected perfectly. The clouds, the first rays of the sun, the birds flying overhead, everything appears so clear. Now imagine picking up a handful of stones and throwing them into that lake. The water begins to ripple, the reflection disappears. Did the sky disappear? No. The sky remained exactly where it was. Only the water lost its ability to reflect it. Perhaps life is very similar. Truth does not disappear. Peace does not disappear. Joy does not disappear. What changes is the condition of our own mind. An agitated mind cannot reflect peace. A jealous mind cannot recognize abundance. An angry mind cannot experience compassion. A dishonest mind cannot appreciate truth. Not because truth is absent, but because the mind has become disturbed. And perhaps this is what our great teachers understood so deeply. Before discovering the highest truths of life, the instrument through which we discover them, our own mind, must first become clear. Have you ever wondered why a dusty mirror cannot show us our own face? The problem is not with the face. The problem is not with the mirror either. It is only the layer of dust. Remove the dust, and the reflection appears effortlessly. Our minds are very much like that mirror. Every act of dishonesty leaves a little dust. Every unnecessary anger leaves another layer. Every selfish thought, every resentment we refuse to let go, every promise we repeatedly break, they slowly cloud the mirror. Then one day, we begin saying, I can't find peace. Perhaps peace hasn't gone anywhere. Perhaps the mirror simply needs cleaning. And what cleans it? Not complicated rituals, not extraordinary experiences, but the simplest of values lived sincerely. Every truthful word wipes away a little dust. Every act of gratitude, another little layer. Every moment of forgiveness, a little more. Every promise we honor, another gentle cleansing. Slowly, almost invisibly, the mind begins to regain its clarity, not because the world has changed, but because we have. This is why I find it so beautiful that our ancient wisdom never begins by asking, "What do you know?" It first asks, "Who are you becoming?" Because knowledge can fill the intellect, only values refine the individual. Information can make us intelligent, but character makes us wise. One helps us earn a living, while the other teaches us how to live. Perhaps this is why wisdom has never been measured by the number of books a person has read. It has always been recognized by the peace they carry, by the compassion they naturally express, and by the integrity with which they live. Knowledge may impress the world, character quietly prepares us for the truth. And now, let me ask you something even more personal. Suppose someone handed you the greatest piece of wisdom ever spoken. Would merely hearing it change your life? Probably not, because all of us already know far more than we practice. We know that anger hurts relationships, yet we become angry. We know gratitude brings contentment, yet we complain. We know honesty builds trust, yet we sometimes choose convenience. The challenge has never been a lack of knowledge. The challenge has always been the readiness of the mind. And perhaps that is the greatest gift these values offer us. They don't merely make us good people, they prepare us to receive wisdom, not intellectually, but inwardly. Maybe that is where every spiritual journey truly begins. Not by searching for extraordinary experiences, not by trying to escape the world, but by becoming so truthful, so compassionate, so disciplined, so inwardly quiet that when life whispers its deepest truths, our heart is finally able to hear them. And if the mind is the instrument through which truth is recognized, then perhaps our next question is, how do we tune that instrument? Because every musician knows before the music begins, the instrument must first be tuned. Perhaps this is where music quietly enters our conversation once again. If you have ever learned Carnatic music or even attended a classical concert, you would have noticed something beautiful. The concert never begins with the composition. The musician doesn't immediately sing the Varnam or the Kriti or the Ragam Tanam Pallavi. The very first thing that happens is almost silent. The tambura is tuned. The Shruti is established. Every musician knows this. No matter how gifted you are, no matter how many years you have practiced, if the Shruti is not right, nothing else will feel right. The notes may be correct, the rhythm may be perfect, the voice may be beautiful, but something will feel unsettled because Music is not built on notes alone, it is built on harmony. Life, I believe, is no different. Every morning we begin singing the composition called life. We step into meetings, we enter classrooms, we speak to our parents, we raise our children, we make decisions, we face disappointments, we celebrate victories. Every single day we perform. But before we begin this concert called life, do we ever pause to tune the instrument? What is the instrument? Not the body, not the voice, the mind. Because every experience in life passes through the mind. The same situation can make one person grateful and another person bitter. The same criticism can make one person stronger and another person angry. The same success can make one person humble and another person arrogant. The world outside may remain exactly the same. The experience changes because the instrument is different. And that instrument is our mind. Every musician understands another beautiful truth. Tuning is never done only once. Imagine a 3-hour concert. The artist doesn't tune the tambura at the beginning and forget about it. Throughout the concert, there are tiny adjustments, almost unnoticed, because even the slightest deviation matters. I often think, isn't life asking the same of us? Every day, small adjustments, a little more patience today than yesterday, a little less anger, a little more gratitude, a little more honesty, a little less ego. Not perfection, just daily tuning. Perhaps spiritual growth isn't one dramatic transformation. Perhaps it is nothing more than these gentle adjustments made every single day. And then something extraordinary begins to happen. The values we spoke about earlier, honesty, discipline, compassion, forgiveness, gratitude, they no longer feel like moral instructions. They become the tuning pegs of our instrument. Every truthful word brings one string back to pitch. Every promise we keep tightens another. Every selfish thought we recognize and let go, another. Every act of forgiveness, another. Every moment we choose understanding over judgment, another. Slowly, almost imperceptibly, our inner instrument begins to resonate. Not because life has become easier, but because we have become more aligned. That is a beautiful reason why our elders insisted so much on daily practice. Not only in music, in life. A vocalist doesn't practice because yesterday's practice was forgotten. He or she practices because today's music deserves today's attention. In the same way, kindness cannot be stored, patience cannot be stored, humility cannot be stored. Every sunrise invites us to practice them again. That is why values are not achievements, they are sadhanas, not something we complete, something we live. Now, perhaps we can understand why our ancient teachers never rushed to reveal the highest truths. Because imagine trying to play a magnificent composition on an untuned instrument? Would the composition be at fault? No, the instrument simply wasn't ready. In the same way, Vedanta is not difficult because the teaching is complicated. It becomes difficult when the mind is noisy, restless, clouded by comparison, agitated by anger, burdened by guilt, or pulled in 100 different directions. It is not that truth is hiding from us, it is that our own inner noise prevents us from hearing it. Sometimes people ask, how do I prepare myself for a spiritual life? Perhaps we have been asking the wrong question. Maybe the question is not, how do I prepare for spirituality? Maybe it is, how do I become a person whose mind naturally rests in truth? The answer begins with very ordinary things: keeping our word, speaking honestly, being grateful, serving without expectation, learning to forgive, living with integrity. They look like ordinary human values, but perhaps they are quietly tuning us for something extraordinary. Every Carnatic musician knows one unforgettable moment. There comes a point when the tambura is perfectly tuned. Suddenly, you stop hearing individual strings. You hear one continuous resonance. Everything falls into place. The voice settles, the music flows effortlessly. There is no struggle anymore, just harmony. Maybe that is what life is inviting us towards: a life where our thoughts, our words, our actions, our values all resonate with one another, where there is no contradiction between what we believe, what we say, and how we live. And perhaps that quiet harmony is the first glimpse of a truly spiritual life. Because when the instrument is finally tuned, only then it is ready to receive the music. And maybe only when the mind is tuned, it is ready to receive the truth. As we come towards the end of today's reflection, I would like to leave you with one final thought. We have spoken about character, we have spoken about discipline, we have spoken about truthfulness, we have spoken about gratitude, kindness, and forgiveness. At first glance, they may seem like ordinary human values, the kind of values our parents tried to teach us, the kind of values our teachers reminded us about, the kind of values we all know yet often forget to live. But perhaps they are much more than that. Perhaps these values are not merely meant to make us respectable people. Perhaps they are meant to make us free. Free from anger that quietly steals our peace. Free from comparison that never allows us to appreciate our own blessings. Free from greed that convinces us that what we have is never enough. Free from ego that slowly distances us from the very people we love. Free from fear that stops us from doing what is right. Maybe that is why our ancient wisdom places so much importance on these qualities. Not because they make us acceptable to society, but because they make our own minds lighter, calmer, clearer. And a calm mind sees life differently. A grateful heart experiences abundance where others see scarcity. A truthful mind sleeps peacefully. A compassionate heart builds relationships that wealth can never buy. A disciplined mind earns something far more valuable than success. It earns self respect. Perhaps this is why the Bhagavad Gita does not merely speak to saints or monks, it speaks to ordinary people, to people who have families, responsibilities, careers, dreams, fears, confusion. People like you, people like me. It gently reminds us that spirituality is not an escape from life. It is a beautiful way of living life. It is learning to remain steady when life becomes uncertain, to remain humble when success arrives, to remain grateful when blessings become familiar, to remain compassionate even when the world is not, to perform our responsibilities sincerely without allowing our happiness to depend entirely on the outcome, to choose what is right even when what is easy stands beside it, to see every human being with dignity, to remember that every action leaves an impression not only on the world but also on our own mind. Perhaps that is where spirituality quietly begins. Not the day we visit more temples, not the day we read more scriptures, not the day we learn difficult philosophies. It begins the day we become deeply honest with ourselves, the day our words and our actions begin to agree with each other, the day we stop pretending to be someone we are not, the day we become dependable, gentle, patient, courageous, the day we discover that becoming a human being is not the end of the spiritual journey. It is the very first step. You know, there is something profoundly beautiful about our musical tradition. Before every concert, the artist spends time finding the right Shruti. There is no audience applauding, no composition has begun, nothing spectacular is happening. And yet, the musician knows everything that follows depends on that quiet preparation. Life is no different. Our values are the Shruti of our life: truthfulness, compassion, discipline, humility, gratitude. These are not restrictions, they are the notes that quietly bring our life to harmony. Without them, life may still be loud, but it will never become music. And perhaps that is why I believe appreciating Carnatic music and appreciating life are not two different journeys. The more deeply we understand one, the more beautifully we begin to experience the other. Because music teaches us something extraordinary. Harmony is never created by one note, it is born when every note knows its place. Life too becomes beautiful when our thoughts, our words, our actions, and our values begin to move together. That harmony is peace. That harmony is inner strength. That harmony is the beginning of a truly spiritual life. So, before we end today, I would like to leave you with a small reflection. Tomorrow morning, before the world asks anything of you, before your phone begins to ring, before your meetings, before your responsibilities, Sit quietly for just 1 minute and ask yourself only one question. When the world meets me today, what kind of human being will it meet? Will it meet someone who complains or someone who contributes? Someone who reacts or someone who understands? Someone who waits to receive kindness or someone who chooses to offer it first? Don't try to change your life overnight. Choose one value, just one. Live it sincerely for a day, then another, then another. Because great human beings are never created in one extraordinary moment. They are shaped through thousands of ordinary choices made with awareness. If every one of us quietly chooses to become a little more truthful, a little more compassionate, a little more disciplined, a little more grateful, this world will not merely become a better place. It will become a more peaceful home for every living being. And perhaps that is the greatest offering we can make. Not merely to our family, not merely to society, but to life itself. If today's reflection has done nothing more than make you pause, even for a moment, and look at your own life with a little more honesty, a little more compassion, and a little more awareness, then perhaps our conversation has only just begun. Because reflections are never meant to end with words. They find their true meaning only when they quietly become a way of life. Thank you for walking with me today. This was the very first Raagadri Reflection. In the episodes to come, we will continue exploring the timeless wisdom that has inspired our composers, our saints, and our traditions, not merely to understand music more deeply, but to understand ourselves more deeply. Until we meet again, may your heart always remain open to learning, your mind remain open to wisdom, and your life become a quiet source of hope for those around you. May every choice you make bring a little more harmony into your own life and a little more kindness into someone else. Because perhaps the greatest music we will ever create is the life we choose to live. This is Jayashree signing off from Raagadri. Until our next musical journey, may your life sing in harmony with your thoughts, your words, and your actions. May every day bring you a little closer to becoming the person you aspire to be. Until then, live with purpose, walk with compassion, and keep discovering the music that life has to offer.